So I'm going to start slowly while people arrive or not, depending. I hope not much people had this technical issue. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and cybersecurity and smart cities and a little bit of everything. And we're going to talk it from a technical level, a business level, and from a more fun hacking level as well, giving a few examples. So just getting the idea of the magnitude of all this and the overall idea of what's happening right now, and a little bit about also what's coming and how artificial intelligence helps in this case all these issues. So this is more of it's a little bit of a different talk because it's not focused on just one specific issue or problem or technology. It talks a little bit of everything. So I hope you're going to really enjoy it. Um, it also addresses a lot of big thinkers and some a little bit older, like Thomas Watson, president of IBM in 1943, that was saying that in the world market was going to be, for maybe 5 computers, a place to sell about 5 computers. No? And other people that said that in 1949 that they were thinking that we reached the peak of what's possible to achieve with computer technology. And now in the year 2020, despite all that is happening, we still have no idea where all this is going. Previous companion said, nobody agrees on where artificial intelligence or technology is going in 100 years, 200 years, or what is going to happen overall. Each day we communicate better with each other, we bring together better solutions, newer solutions, and sometimes it brings us by surprise. So this is my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and basically a little bit what I do and where I am. I work with a lot of companies. I own my own company, which is DLTCode, but also lobby for Aspertic and the Catalan Parliament in the UAE Parliament. Most of them with technologies issues and where all this is going, trying to get better legal support for all this what's happening around us and getting better regulation for specific issues concerning legal tech and other more complicated issues. No? But mostly involved with hacking because it's what most fun is in this line of business. So thank you all of you for being here and for taking this time, a Friday afternoon. I don't really know where each of you is, but at the end of the presentation, if you want, we can talk a little bit of each other and see where each of you is based and see a little bit, share a little bit a little bit of knowledge between all of us. If you can cooperate with all the organizations that right now are helping a little bit the ones that are more in need. Pretty simple. Sites like Red Cross, you can basically donate €5 with no effort at all. They do a great job spreading food around. I use the Spanish web case in this case because that's the first one that I could find. Made the donation, by the way, it's just in case. So we're going to talk about information security, basically all the things that we put together to protect our systems and organizations, but mostly the information that they have, keeping together or taking account the confidentiality and the integrity and the availability of the information, because if any of these three things fail, well, in the end, we're not going to have security in itself. Security is it's not about privacy. It's about having information available, having it confidential, and, and and that information could not be altered by anyone else that is not us. So that's a little bit of the focus. We're going to talk about privacy as well a little bit more at the end, but just keep in mind that privacy and security are not the same thing. They're very different. Sometimes they can be put in the same place, but there are very few the exact times when that happens. Security is one thing, safety is another thing, and privacy is a totally different thing. What is happening right now? Well, we are turning everything around us in smart devices. My favorite example is the light bulb. We all know the typical light bulb, which has very few components, very simple. You turn on the switch and it works. But also we have the smart light bulbs. Okay, well, that actually look like this. We have a phone here up that controls as a light bulb down there. What is in between the phone and the light bulb itself, it's a lot of systems, a lot of places where this information travels. And all this information, we say, okay, but it's just me switching on a light bulb. Yeah, but it's when you're at home, where you live, when you sleep, turning a light bulb, it's already very interesting data. And it's not just a light bulb. Everything that we make intelligent or smart, okay, all the smart devices that we convert nowadays, from everything, from a light bulb to a car, to our fridge, to all of these devices that we connect around, okay, present a different set of issues. The one in the middle, it's actually it's used for problems with for people with that have heart problems. Okay, it's a pacemaker, and that's a connected device as well. So see that it's in particular, I put a big focus here on the cameras because not long ago, last year, in the Spanish newspaper, we had this news that one guy connected to a camera of a girl and started talking to her, telling her that he is her best friend. It's extremely easy now that we did everything smart to connect to a device that it's not ours. There are web pages like Google that have find this type of devices, and the security in this type of devices is extremely poor usually. Everything's changing since we're doing everything, we're turning everything into smart devices. Even the way we protest, and even the way we vandalize things. Before we would, well, people would burn paper bins. Now, if you see it here in the right, it's a paper bin that has a screen and someone basically crushed it. It's another way of setting it on fire, just digitally. Okay, so everything is changing. We need different type of regulations. We need a lot of, well, the world itself is changing because you make everything smart. Uh, with all those things come a lot of dangers. You're all heard of ransomware. It's impossible to not hear about ransomware nowadays. This is a map of different type of ransomware until the year 2017, until 3 years ago. So you can see the actual different type of ransomware. It looks like a metro map. It's a pretty cool design. Uh, that talks about all this, explains a little bit all of them that happened around us. Okay, since all this happened, because it's happened before 2011. But anyways, the when it come into play. But why it's so important? So if you look back in time, 10, 15 years ago, it was usual to read in a newspaper that a guy from a company would get kidnapped and someone demanded ransom. How long is it that you last seen that in a newspaper that someone from a big company got kidnapped? So I remember, at least in Spain, 10 years ago and 15 years ago, each month you would have a kidnapping of someone because of political reasons or whatsoever, but everybody would go after the same thing, a ransom. So now it changed a lot because the new thieves, the new malicious actors, the new kidnappers, kidnap information, kidnap data, and paralyze companies as a whole, instead of just kidnapping the sale, which brings physical harm to them. It's a lot more comfortable to be the bad guy in a smart age, no, in a smart devices age. If we bring together AI in the end with all this ransomware, for example, just to control this ransomware, all this type of ransomware in the end, in a smart city, it is impossible to do it by hand and technologies we have nowadays. It is very important to bring AI into play. We will teach this machine how to recognize what is a malicious file and what is a ransomware or what is an attack, train it to be a cybersecurity helper in this case, to to be able to have uh, safety and security. Because if we make all this a whole city smart with buses that drive itself, a malicious actor could take charge of that bus and throw it over a cliff or crash it against a building. So we do need that part of the security to guarantee the safety. I understand that the bus example, it's a very simple example. There are a lot more complicated ones, uh, like playing with health systems or playing with the water system of a city. One of my favorite jokes is that for industrial people that understand how a water plant, treatment plant works, that you've actually put a few chemicals in the water to make it safe for people to drink. Well, if you play with the proportion of all these things in a water plant, and you can do it actually do it remotely if you know how to look for it, uh, you make a whole city addicted to painkillers and medicine for their bad stomach. And it's as simple as I'm talking about it. So 5 6 years ago and 10 years ago, that was extremely easy to do for everybody from their own home. Nowadays, thankfully I have to say that most countries are taking very good care of their infrastructure. But I'm starting to see again that people that have personal water treatment plants in their own home, that they have them connected to the internet without much security. So if it's a water plant treatment plant for your home, there's no reason for you to connect it to the internet in the first place. But that's another topic. But when we talk to about AI, there are very many different opinions. There are people that say we have to hit the gas with this because it's going to be a step forward for everybody. It's going to improve our lives, our way of doing things. It's going to give us more time to be more creative because it's going to take care of all the repetitive tasks and other type of issues. And there are other people that, in the case of Stephen Hawking, great guy, may he rest in peace, that he was actually afraid of AI. He was actually afraid what the AI can bring. Okay, so we're not talking about a guy that's writing science fiction novel. We're talking about a guy that has or had a very high reasoning capacity in itself. But still, nobody knows where it's going. Nobody knows what is actually going to happen. The real problem with the AI is that if we trust technology as itself by default, uh, AI has a lot of bias. AI learns from the information we give it. There was a case in U.S. court where they put together an AI and started putting into a courthouse, and that they see that the AI was biased, would condemn to jail about 70% more uh, people of color than white people. So the biggest issue with AI is not that it's going to have a mind of its own. The biggest issue is what mind is going to have and what are we going to teach it. AI is not, it's just a kid that we're just bringing it in play, and we're teaching this guy how to reason, how to do some things, and the way on what we're going to teach it in itself is what it's are the benefits that are going to bring us. So the biggest issue here is the bias that we're going to have with teaching it. So before bringing the AI together, we need certain regulations. We need correct training for the people that are going to do it. We need a lot of ethical issues that we have to have solved. A lot of non-technical issues, because most of them are not technical itself. We have enough technology now to put together a lot of type of AI to do a lot of different tasks. But what we teach this kid to do is what we're going to receive in return at the end. Okay. And most of all, with all these things that we are starting to be afraid of AI, data, and so on, as well with the current situation of coronavirus and all this that we're suffering this year. We have to remember that sacrificing privacy to build the security that we need around ourselves comes with a cost, and that cost in the long term can be very high if we do not treat it correctly. Okay, like uh, new dictatorship in some countries, or other type of physical harm to other people because all the information we can gather and put together, but that's a very different issue, and we're not that about talking about that today. Okay, so AI in itself has a very some interesting benefits like cost saving, taking care of basic repetitive tasks, ability to handle larger scale tasks and issues. It allows you to personalize the services that you are offer, like for example Netflix that always knows and give you a good recommendation of movie. Okay, so that's something similar to that, but just put it together to the industry. It allows you to discover new insights. So if you have a big company that manufactures toothpicks, you could actually know when your machine is going to break. You can actually know when you're going to need to get new personnel because they're going to get sick for whatever reasons. So AI in itself, the way it's thinking, since we had a small pandemic each 50 year and a bigger pandemic every 100 years, or possibly you would have predicted coronavirus. So it would have been in its calculations. Why? Because it works with data. It wouldn't work with our bias that, wow, now we have a lot of technology medicine and let's forget about this and don't be prepared with it. But it has some downsides, but like it's very expensive. It's still a very expensive technology. There are very few people trained to actually do this. Their universities started actually training people very few years ago, like 2 and 3 years and 4 years that go at most good training courses to put together all this type of projects. It brings together a lot of new cybersecurity risks because it needs more infrastructure. It also needs a lot of new skilled workers for the cybersecurity side and so on. It needs a legal and technical framework in itself. Okay. The ongoing fees and maintenance, it's very much expensive as well in this type of technology. The operational complexity, very it's very high. Uh, it's not as easy as a push a button like you would use with other technologies. It's not as simplified as other technologies as they are right now. And there are very few consulting companies and very few tools in itself for you to be able to quantify the return of implementing AI in itself, artificial intelligence in some types of businesses. So you can have a snake oil vendor that would come and sell you AI where clearly you don't need AI, or on the contrary, places where AI would do a very good job don't get implemented because they cannot see the actual return of implementing this type of technologies. So in itself, AI, there are a lot of great projects, a lot of great people right now working on it, but it's still not mainstream enough to be a technology to be put in use and to be affordable enough to actually bring us right now all the things that it promises. No? Anyways, let's go to more fun. Translate very fast. Spanish police it's investigating a gas station that could have been manipulated, so gas would be free. And so during the whole weekend, lots of people in the city of Sevilla had free gas. The word went around and everybody started just refilling gas. This is actually an actual screenshot of this gas machine with the prices in zero. I was in Madrid at that time in my office. Somebody sent the news to me. So I found I went online to the typical pages that you would look for devices instead of web pages, like Google for devices to select a certain way. One of them is Shodan, if you want to look around or read more about it. So I started looking around because, well, I am a security guy, so it was quite easy for me to find it and say, wow, look, it's still online with zero, the same thing, and how could they have this like this? So everybody from their home could actually change the prices on this company itself that I changed the name uh, for, for various reasons. No, I don't want anyone to sue me. Uh, so the issue here is they had a very poor policy in place. This is part of a smart city, part of cybersecurity, part of national security, and so on, industrial security. And they had a very poor system, managing system. So anybody from their home could change the prices in the gas station. And that happens in a lot of other brands and a lot of other companies of this type. Okay. Another interesting part that is still part of smart cities, another news. It was in the city of Madrid on a big screen in the city, the typical that you have a lot of them from the same brand that gives you advertising on the street. Well, somebody put a porn movie. Okay. The funny thing about this is not that they put a porn movie. The funny thing about this is that somebody called the police. So the police went there and actually covered the thing with a blanket. And they called the fire department to come and turn off the device. Okay? We are not prepared. We are not prepared for all this type of dangers in a smart city. We are not prepared for smart cities from a safety and cybersecurity point of view. The police force, the people we trust for our security, is not trained yet for this type of situations. They will not be for some years. So in Spain, at least, when a lawyer finishes the university, they cannot be a lawyer yet until they get a master's degree that will specialize them in something, either family matters or labor matters or economic matters or whatsoever. For digital matters, there was no masters for lawyers in Spain until 3 years ago. So it was very hard for you to find, and that happens in all over the world. It's not just Spain. It's from what I've talked with other colleagues in other places. You would have a digital contract issue with a or similar thing, and it would be very hard for you to find a lawyer that would know how to actually help you with that issue in particular. And on the other side, there was very smart lawyers that take into account all this gap in the legal system for the digital issues and managed to get a lot of people to stop paying credits to the banks legally by taking the bank to the court because of the digital signature that they would put in the contract. So you have both sides. This is actually that if you look in Shodan, this webpage that you can look for devices, if you would put this, if you would look with, if you would do this search, we call it dorks, you can find a lot of interesting things talking about privacy, also in smart cities and security. This is actually a sex shop. Down here, you can actually see some toys. And it's very interesting from one of the most private places that you would expect to have this webcam with this security cam published on internet, so everybody could see it. No? If you go a little bit further and you would look for connected devices that would share their screen, You would find about 1,700 before coronavirus. Now you would have a lot more of them because everybody for digital transformation and remote work enabled wrongly a remote access tunnel or screen to their devices. So you can find things like a brewery that you could actually control and change the flavor of the beer, at least. You can do a lot of worst things, but just leave it there. You would find airport control for the meteorology side. That these things you would you can same as in the gas station, you could change values and uh, create a little bit of a disaster. You can find um, actually I don't remember what this is. Refills, direction, day supply. Ah, yeah, it's a medical system actually for patient system to create how do you call it? Prescription drugs. Okay, so you can look for patients, you can look for doctors for different type of drugs. You can create what type of refills and so on. So it's the pharmacy control from a hospital. Not long ago, for another thing that I reported, I would find X-rays machines from all over the world that you can see all the people data and their X-rays and so on. But all these things that I'm talking about, they're not available right now because I report them first. They take care of them, and months after, I bring them up in conferences like this or specialized. So don't bother looking for this one in particular. You're not going to find it anymore. But still, at the moment, it was quite complicated. You would find servers that would give you directly their username, so you just have to find the password. So I don't know if you ever heard that the saying that the password is dead. The password is dead because the password is in itself today with the computing that we have, and we don't have yet an extremely advanced computing like the ones that are going to come in the next 10, 15 years. A password that it's 8 characters long nowadays with a normal computer, can break it in minutes, literally in minutes. So if someone's username, the only thing that you have to guess is the password. If you don't know the username, it's going to be a lot harder for you to break into a system. But then we have the issue that if you have an email, everybody already knows your username because it's your email. So what do you do in that case? Well, you use a second authentication factor. So each time someone's new tries to log in from a new computer or a new city or a new place, each time something from the usual changes, it's going to send you a message to your phone and it's going to ask you, is it you? Do we allow this person to get in? So that's very important for personal and also professional email, and also for this type of servers and systems, because this second factor authentications can already be used even in more legacy systems and things that we thought that we can't use it anymore. So same thing that I told you that water tanks and similar, we have the same issues. Uh, as you see, worldwide, these are worldwide issues. We have QE management system for Copa Airlines. This one was a very funny one when I found it. It made me a little bit afraid. So this one was it corrected also as well. This is not a very good thing to toy with. It shouldn't be exposed to internet as well. This was a very bad idea on behalf of these people. And also, if you would try to think to rob a bank digitally, if you want to know how hard it is to find a bank online or a bank system, well, you just have to look for this in Spanish or in English, and you would find about this much in Spanish or looking in Spanish or in English, or Spanish Portuguese because it's the same word, or English. Uh, they would even give you their own name. It's published. This is all published information. So now the only thing you have to do is try to get inside. I'm not going to tell you how to do that, but just telling you that even banks and things that we would think that they would have better security policies and information are not that well secured and still have a lot of issues that they're still working on. Coming back to smart cities, when we talk about smart cities and the information we put together, as you've seen in industrial and places that should be a lot more prepared, we already have these issues. Well, think about buses and cars and all the autonomous devices that we're putting together, like robots to clean and so on, with all the systems from cities, from their traffic light and so on. All these create an extremely huge information stream that is practically impossible to analyze with the usual tools that we are for the volume that they have. And even if you do it, the expense right now, it's enormous. So there are a lot of our companies that starting working with AI to simplify the the threats and to simplify the analysis of this type of things. Because as you've seen, it's very easy to do some things. So to finish with a little joke, which it's that I work in IT and security. That's why my house has mechanical locks with mechanical windows, a router with OpenVRT, which is a specialized system. I don't have any IoT or IoT or smart devices in my house. I don't have Alexa or Google Assistant. I don't need it anyway. And I don't have any thermostats connected to the internet. I really like the people that actually have everything connected in their house in the internet to the internet, that control everything from their phone, that their houses are ready for Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, NFC, and they control everything from the voice, control everything with the okay. Okay, so I'm saying that they are the future. Without them, I wouldn't have that much work. And without them, Shodan, the place that I told you, wouldn't be the same. And I respect very much the old people that work in operational technologies in factories, that the best thing that they have in their house is a printer from the 2004. And if they make any strange noise, they're going to directly shoot the printer. And that's it. Okay, I ran out a bit longer with the time. I'm a bit 5 minutes late from the schedule that I had, but I hope this was entertaining for you.